Welcome back to Speedweek. Now, we know you love the backstories of our great motorsport heroes with insight on how they've made it to the top. So we've called on V8 Supercar driver Warren Luff's dad, Ian, for the lowdown, plus plenty more, and he joins us now. Welcome along, Ian. Fantastic to have you in the studio.
Yeah, what a privilege.
Now, look, I always want to know, as do all of us sports nuts, how drivers achieve what they do. And it comes back to that big question of how do they get the results? Is it learned? Is it built into them? And you know this better than a lot of people.
Well, look, I get asked this all the time, and it's a combination of things. Obviously, you have to have skill. I mean, if you're an unskilled driver, you're an accident waiting for somewhere to happen. But you've probably got to have the motivation, the desire, and more importantly, the belief. You've got to back yourself, because if you don't back yourself, no one else will. And
that builds with time. You get a winning memory, and it certainly gives you energy to move forward. But sometimes it's just built into you. I mean, you were speaking earlier about having spoke with Mark Webber, and you noticed at about 14, 15 years of age, there was a resolve and a conviction with him that was quite different.
Look, you're right. I mean, you know, champions, I don't believe are born, but I believe they're created. I think the environment that you're in, what takes place around you, they're the building blocks of what we call the cognitive skills, what goes on in a person's head. Because the physical skills of driving a race car or a road car, I mean, you get to sit down like we're doing at the moment, and there's three things. You push the A pedal. I've never taught anyone out of the 150,000 graduates to push the accelerator. The B pedal's important, but the change of direction of the C. So there's three fundamental things, road or race: go, slow, change direction. But more importantly, it's that will to do those skills in a much better way than the average person.
And in terms of all of us at home, I'm always thinking, could I do it? Could I do it? And there is the desire, but perhaps not enough that would make me overcome some of the fears that I sometimes have.
Look, fear of failure is probably the biggest thing in any person's life. You know, public speaking, a lot of people are terrified of public speaking. Oh, I couldn't do that. And the word can't. As we say, take the T off the end, then you can. It's driven by a person's mind, and if you never have a go, you'll never know. So sitting on the couch at home is one thing, but getting behind the wheel and trying something is incredibly rewarding. Whether you're going to win or whether you're going to lose, that's not the issue. It's about competing. And you have to get off the couch, get behind the wheel and have a go.
And of all of the great drivers that have come through your school, who has really stood out at different points, that's an incredible quality that will take them right through?
Look, there have been many people, as you touched on before. I mean, good old Mark Webber.
Fantastic
there's
shot,
an old
isn't
photo.
it?
It's in black and white, but
yeah, both handsome devils there, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, you know, time marches on. But you know, Mark had this incredible desire. He'd come from karting, as a lot of people have. And when I asked him, you know, where's the future? He said, well, we're going to do Formula Ford, which was heading in that year, which is all good. And I said, what about beyond that? And I always remember his answer. He said, oh, I'm going to race in Formula One. I went, really? That's a pretty ambitious comment. I said, how are you going to do it? Then there's this long pause, and he said, I've got no idea, but I'm going to do it. And I think that's a pretty powerful statement. I've got no idea, but I'm going to do it. And guess what he's now doing? Doing what he wanted to do. He didn't know how he's going to achieve it. Most people look for the how. You've got to have the want. The want is greater than anything else. Because
sure enough, you do get all of the roadblocks along the way. We see it in our industries, and you can't see them as roadblocks, you just have to step around them.
Well, look, there's detours, whether they're roadblocks. I mean, a lot of things get thrown in the way. Motor racing is expensive. It costs money. I mean, you get nothing for nothing. So you've really got to have a business head as well. You've got to understand about the laws of sponsorship, you know, partnerships, endorsements, and how you're going to become an ambassador for a brand, because there's two ways to go motor racing. One, fund it yourself, or two, get paid by somebody else. And I can assure you, being paid by somebody else, you drive a heck of a lot better.
Of course you do. Now, I met Warren recently out at Bathurst. Lovely chap. And last year, the partnership with Craig Lowndes, fantastic. Would you say he's really hitting his straps now? Where do you see him going?
Look, Warren has hit his straps a long time ago. He's done many things, you know, multiple Australian champion. He's won 4 titles, Mirage Cup, Australian V8 Utes, which is a pretty intense thing, 2 years back to back. But again, it depends on the equipment and the people around you, because motorsport that turns into motor racing proprietary limited like a business, when you move up the food chain, and you might start at the club level, which most people do, when you move up, you've got to have good advice, you've got to have good mentoring, but you've got to have good team management and, more importantly, the best equipment. If you're driving an average car, you will get an average result, no matter how skilled you are. So, you know, look at V8 Supercars. I mean, Warren unfortunately spent some time with some, let's say, not as sharp equipment as it could have been. As soon as he stepped up with Craig Lowndes, yes, Craig's very good. Warren complimented him, Craig complimented. So good equipment, great results.
And also, and in getting back to the personal component of that, if it's not hitting your straps, it could be almost reinventing yourself too, because he has had a lot of time on the scene, learned a lot, garnered that wisdom, and now can really see what he's about. And that's the impression I got.
Well, look, yeah, that's right. I mean, that self-belief, that motivation within yourself. I mean, if people are flat, they're negative. Negative's not a good place to be. You've got to get out of that negativity and see the positives. And unfortunately, a lot of people, they look at the failure. Oh, I haven't achieved that. Conceive it, believe it, you will achieve it. If you look at mediocrity and you practice mediocrity, there's a real good chance the end result won't be real flash. So, yeah, Warren stepped up to the plate emotionally, mentally. He's always had the desire to win, and he's had many successes both here in Australia and overseas, particularly in Germany, and I think now it's a pretty special place for him.
And what's special too is obviously that you're his father, and the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. He would have really absorbed a lot from you over time. How's the relationship been? Well,
look, it's been really great. I mean, we've grown up, and he's come around in racetracks. I think his first drive at Oran Park was driving the water truck. And the owner of Oran Park, Tony Perich at the time, saw the F100 going down the main straight with no driver, and wondered what was going on, and Warren was sort of barely seeing over the steering wheel. So he spent a lot of time around racetracks and developed that, let's say, familiarity with how the business functions. And obviously you have to have a business brain, and that's passed probably a little bit from me, and also my team of people across to where Warren is now. But he's still his own person. We've raced with each other and we've raced against each other, so that's an interesting thing.
So away from the track, you're a driving instructor with all manner of skills that you bring into the public. What do you most get from that?
Look, I get a personal reward when we see, let's say, an average driver become a more competent, more aware, more alert driver, because as you know, to drive to survive on the public roads, you've got to have a sixth sense about you. You are competing with other people who are out there trying to kill you.
Yeah, quite right, and you're doing a fantastic job, and lovely to have you on the show. Thank you.
No, it's been a privilege.